Tim, I have a question for you. Who, in your mind, should not worry about this hard fork and should not concern themselves with withdrawals at all?
Um, so I guess if you're just using the Ethereum chain, this won't affect you, right? Like so, and by using, I mean, sending transactions, receiving transactions. As with every hard fork, or as much as we try to, it should be like it should not affect any of the deployed contracts or break any of the user experience there. Um, so I think that's probably the only group that doesn't have to worry. Everyone else, so I think if you run a node, if you're a staker, you should pay attention. There's a couple of small changes on the EL side that are like interesting for smart contract devs as well. If you're an infrastructure provider, if you're a crypto exchange, then yeah, you should be paying attention.
What if I'm a
about
solo staker who
uh,
I'm not in a hurry to get my funds out? Like I'm not
You
like
still
I'm
need
not
to
trying to
upgrade
do
your
anything
node.
now.
Yeah, so
Okay.
so you don't have to withdraw. This is, and we can get into this in more detail after, but depending on how you've set up your validators, you're either going to be withdrawn automatically or you're going to have to sign a message to process withdrawals. But assuming that you're not withdrawn automatically, there's no forcing function for you to withdraw. You can just keep your stake as is. But that said, you still need to upgrade your node because everybody else is, and the consensus rules changes. And if you don't do that, you'll be sort of stuck on your little island, separated from the rest of the Ethereum network.
Tim, what if I am I'm not a node operator, but I am a staker, and I deposited my ETH into some sort of pooled staking protocol.
Yeah, so then you as a user won't have to do anything before the fork. You should make sure that whether you've deposited your ETH in an on-chain pool or at an exchange or something, you should make sure they're paying attention and ask them what their plans are. And what I expect the average experience will be is like your service provider in the next weeks to months will put out something that explains how they handle withdrawals, what their process is. And if it's something where like you can have a voice as a user, if you're using Rocket Pool, if you're using Lido or something like that, and they have forums where to discuss this, it might make sense for you to review that. But then the withdrawals should then give you a way to get your funds back or unlocked after it happens. So say you deposit on Kraken or Coinbase, after withdrawals, it'll be possible to convert back that ETH that was deposited on the beacon chain to ETH on the execution layer. Yeah, so I expect different service providers will have different announcements in the next few weeks. But if you're a user of one of those, you should be asking them what their plan is. And if they have a way to provide input for that, then it's a good time to do so.
Sweet. So just as a wrap up, anyone who's not staking, if you're just using Ethereum, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to worry about this hard fork. If you're using something like Coinbase or Kraken, you can withdraw. You might be able to withdraw after the fork, so you could ask them what their plan is. And anybody who's doing using an LSD, be in contact with your protocol. And anyone who is a node operator should be paying attention and should definitely watch our next call on specifics about what node operators have to do.
Yeah, and one more thing I'll add as well. When you mentioned LSD, so LSDs have mostly dealt with transaction fees since the merge, right? Like, so say you use Rocket Pool or Lido or Swize or another one of those. I believe they all pretty much just take the transaction fees that they produce in blocks and restake them and help like compound your staking rewards that way. It's not as clear to me that like most of the centralized staking providers have like done much with transaction fees since the merge. So if you are a user of one of those, this is a good time to ask them. Just as a heads up, you should have been accruing transaction fees since the merge. And potentially those are still locked or your staking provider hasn't like gotten around to unlocking those and making them redeemable. But those should already be freely available, and with withdrawals, if you haven't seen those, it's a good time to ask the question again.